I'm Steve Fowl. I'm a professor of theology at Loyola University in Baltimore, and I've been there for 23 years.
And when you first got your invitation to come to this, you were first sort of felt out about it, what'd you think?
That's, I'm trying to remember that first moment. Gerald had spoken with me independently about what he was hoping would happen, and that sounded very exciting. And so when I actually got the invitation, I remembered that conversation. It was very, I thought it was an exciting opportunity to bring Americans and folks from the southern part of Africa together to talk about an issue that obviously there are a lot of strong feelings around. Other than that, though, the agenda seemed pretty amorphous, and that can always be a little anxiety-producing. But the planning has gone really well. We've been led through all sorts of really interesting things. So it's been great just to be here and participate as a sort of conversation partner to folks. And that seems to be one of the things that was wanted, the cultivation of conversation. And I think we've done a good job at that.
Have there been presentations or interactions that have really stood out for you?
I think, for me in particular, but I suspect everyone in our group, the Bible studies have been fantastic. We've really gotten a lot of different voices talking about texts and not always agreeing. In fact, the first day we had a lot more agreement than we had the second day, and I thought that was actually good, that we had productive disagreements, and that was a sign that we were both comfortable with each other and appreciated each other's insights, but didn't feel like we had to accept them at face value without challenging them. And so that was really good. Those have been particularly strong moments for me. Regis's presentation this afternoon, or sorry, that was before lunch, so this morning, I thought was a really nice laying out of a variety of issues for an American audience. As an American listening to that, it was really nice to see, here's somebody who is thinking about these issues in his own context in Zimbabwe, and here are the things that he thinks are really pressing on them, and some of the questions that he left us with were challenging.
What have your interactions been like as an American? I've had at least 2 people report that someone has said to them, I've never actually met an American before. Now, I don't know if anybody said anything like that, but how have you been received?
I haven't had quite that, because some of the people, especially the people that Gerald has taught, have read my work before, and so they knew my name. And so it was nice, it's always nice to have put a face and a name together. But the reception has just been magnificent. I think people have really been welcoming, and they understand that we come from very different places. Our churches are in different places on this journey in thinking about human sexuality, and nobody's been forcing one group to either slow down or the other group to speed up, or everybody's been very respectful and open, I think, and it's been a wonderful set of conversations. My worry, to the extent I had a worry when we began, is that talking about issues of human sexuality can be pretty incendiary for folks that don't know each other. And I worry that we could replicate that, and it really hasn't happened. There's been a really intense level of respect, a lot of listening and attentive listening, and I think that's gone really well. I think that's largely due to the folks who've been leading us, that they've modeled that for us, and we've sort of mirrored that, I hope.
Right. Now, yesterday afternoon, Grace, the General Secretary of the Council of Anglican Provinces in Africa, gave a presentation and really kind of distilled the nature of the objections that many Africans have to what the Episcopal Church has been up to. What did you think of that presentation?
And in a sense, I'm reflecting what our group that spoke afterwards, I think, thought too, was that he'd done a very painstaking job of trying to lay out issues, some of which he probably agrees with, some of which he probably doesn't, but that he tried to be really very fair to a variety of different issues. And some of those I don't think I'd ever really heard before. And so it was nice to have them laid out in a very non-confrontational, non-judgmental way, saying, here are what some folks are thinking, and reflecting somebody who'd listened very hard to those people and was trying to be their voice to us. And that he took on 2 or 3 different voices, really. I suppose, in terms of the objections and the concerns, I think one of the really profound things that our gathering has done is to bring gay and lesbian Christians into the presence of people who've never met gay and lesbian Christians before. That's one of the things I have heard people say. I've never heard a gay Christian speak about their faith before. I've never heard a lesbian speak about their faith before. And I think what that promises is that the more and the broader set of relationships that we can cultivate, that will actually do more to break down barriers than the theology and the Bible study will do. I mean, the Bible study is a way of cultivating a relationship, but it's sitting next to a person and just hearing their story is a way of breaking down some of the fear of the unknown that must drive a lot of concerns. To see that these are people who are very serious about their faith. And we heard some really moving stories, both in our Bible study and then in the plenary sessions, of gay and lesbian Christians who take their faith as seriously as anybody else does, and want to be in dialogue with the whole church over this. I think that will do as much as anything else to break down barriers over time. Now that's a slow process, though. I mean, you don't form 10,000 relationships overnight. So, but that seems to be a way that almost guarantees success. Even if it doesn't guarantee agreement, I think what it guarantees is that we won't turn away from each other in the midst of our disagreements.
You've actually begun to anticipate the next question, which is, what can we do with this? How can we carry it forward?
Couple of things come to mind, and these are by no means the only things. They're just a few things. One of the things Regis brought out very nicely were about hermeneutical issues in relationship to biblical texts, and somebody else raised the question of letting biblical texts have a redemptive function. And I think the next stage in that, the things that we didn't quite get out on the table at the end of our session today, have to do with, well, what sort of communities do we need to be in order to have redemptive readings bubble up from our engagements with Scripture? And so I suppose a next step, which may happen even today or part of tomorrow, is to begin to think about what sort of common life do we need to cultivate in the various places where we find ourselves, so that as we engage Scripture, redemptive readings bubble up rather than readings that are ultimately divisive and destructive. Can we become the sort of people who will wrestle with hard texts until those texts bless us? That's one of the images Gerald uses. And that's as much about us and our relationships with each other as readers as it is about the text. And that's probably the next thing I think we need to look at in terms of thinking about this. Carrying it further, more relationship building, more conversation, of course, is going to do a lot. And I'm very hopeful in that regard, way more hopeful than I think I might have been when I first arrived. So on that side, I think that's a next step. Perhaps as an American, what I feel like I'm going to take away, at least one of the things, is that having met folks from Africa, both gay and lesbian folks, but also heterosexual folks, I want to be in communion with them. And so the importance of retaining that connection is going to be greater and deeper for me than I think it would have been had I not come.
Thank you very much.